Hello again, Struck. Yesterday I promised that today I'll be bringing you that one broken build where Magic Barrage kind of results in 10 times the damage from Buffmeister being added to your weapons when shooting, and this is it. This is the build in question. I am hoping that they fix this. I'm hoping this it's not even a nerf when it's a fix. I hope that this 1100% spell damage does not get added to other spells, but just to the spell itself when it comes to Magic Barrage, or any other spell that gives spell damage shouldn't buff your second slot spell. So hopefully this gets fixed, but up until then, if you really feel like playing this, which it could be fun, here's the setup. Buckle up, I hope you enjoy it, and let's go. Now let's talk about the skill points. I'll show you quickly 5 setups, one for each possible subclass for the Spellshot, because the build works with Spellshot as long as you have whatever subclass. There are ways to build it. So I'll talk more about why we're taking these Clawbringer things. If you see this is synergy with fire. That's why I would suggest when going gun damage with Clawbringer, with such a build, go for fire. You could go lightning, but lightning doesn't have gun damage synergies as much as fire. So I would suggest finding fire weapons if you feel like it, or you can still use good cold weapons if you like them more. There's elemental damage here, so fire, elemental damage. Here, this thing, sure, you could maybe put a point in it. It's not necessary. Because again, I've got this just from my armor, which is not the right one in any case. This one, again, don't put points because unless you go deathless, you don't care about ward. If you go deathless, then pick up the ward. Why deathless? More about that in the armor, in the item segment. Rebuke, I would put 4 points here just so we can unlock some other things. 1 point here. I think 1 point here and here is also nice. Now over here, this will be pretty much probably the exact same skill setup for most other ways you build. Ideally you would want 0 points here unless you're going deathless. I unfortunately have 1 point there from my armor, so that's not that great. But you want 3 points here. Spell damage converted to gun damage. You want 1 point here for sure, because see, you can't recharge your ward, but we don't want to recharge our ward anyways, and you get spell damage extra. We want spell cooldown rate, so we can buff more often. The fire rate is great, so putting 4 points here gives us some extra of that. We want this one, that bonus damage is nice. We want this one, and ideally we want armor that gives us a point in this one and this one, or one of them. Obviously you won't be able to find one that boosts both of them. Warcaster, put some points there. I mean, we can't max it out if we want enough points here, but you can maybe remove this point or even that point, although I would say this point instead of that, and you can maybe max that one out. This one, 1 point, 1 slot, 1 kill, needless to say, get it. This one, sever the thread, definitely get that. And as I mentioned, only put a point here if you go for a deathless armor. If you find a good raw deathless armor, then put this one, and then maybe put some points here for maximum ward capacity, but then you won't be using the shield, the cursed width. Again, there's many ways to play it. It's a very flexible setup. The key component is concentrated Magic Barrage, and then a Buffmeister equal of the element of your weapons, ideally. But that's it for the skills. In terms of stats for any setup, except for Stabbomancer, I would suggest going to max out your crit chance and maxing out your cooldown for the spell, and the rest of the points maybe putting into HP ward or crit damage. It's up to you. But if you're Stabbomancer, instead of maxing out Dex, max out strength and intelligence, and then the rest into constitution maybe. So when it comes to the Brr-zerker and the skills, if you use it as a subclass, Obviously on Spellshot you want 2 points here, and then you would need to put 2 more points here to get the next. Then 5 points here eventually, you get this one, but then you need 4 more points to unlock the next one. And that's when you would probably want to put some points, some more points here and maybe here. Eventually you get 5 points here, 1 point here, and eventually get 1 point here, and you would need some points into Warcaster to get Sever the Thread, and that's with the bare minimum reaching Sever the Thread. After that you can put 5 points for frost damage, because you would be building with frost when going Brr-zerker as a subclass. Then extra damage to SWOT targets, it's amazing. I would max it out. I would also max out Instinct for the reload speed, and then I would max out Cold Snap because of movement speed and frost efficiency, also double when you're enraged, so even better. Then unarmored defense, I think it's nice. If you use Cursed Wit, it's nice. If you use a Deathless armor, you don't want this. Instead, you might want to put an extra point there. And then I had a spare point and I decided to put Relentless Rage. And now I've got 2 points that I can spend in multiple places. One of them is this place for those 2 points. Another place would be 2 points here. Another one, if you think you'll be close, you could put 2 points there, or if you want enrage duration, not the melee damage, just enrage duration there. And there's even HP regeneration that you can put, or you can put the points into just warming up or Warcaster. I think Warcaster would probably be the best thing you can do with those 2 points. That's why I'm putting them there. When it comes to the skill points when using a Spore Warden, you again have the same setup: 3 here, 2 here, 5 here. Then a few more points here, then you get there, then you get another point here, and then you get this 5, this 1, this 1, this 3, and then this 1. That's your base setup if you're not using Deathless. If you're using Deathless armor, put a point here, so you can regenerate your ward, obviously, and then maybe consider not taking this, because it will... Well, it will be fine with Deathless to take this. You just need to chuck a lot of weapons that explode on reload, so you can keep gaining stacks and recharging that. Then put 5 points here, 1 point here, and now you need this, and maybe ideally this one as well. And that means you have to put points in one of those 4 skills. Gun critical hit chance, you won't see much of a difference. Maybe companion health could be nice. It's up to you. I'll just put them now in ability damage, and then get this 3 points here, 3 points here, and now you have 1 extra point. And it's probably best to put it into Warcaster. And there you have it. This is without any bonuses from the armor, how it should look. And this is how we do the skill points for a Graveborn subclass. First we start with these 2 points here, 5 points here, this one, so we need 4 points. Actually we should have put them there, but okay. Then we put 5 points here, then 1 point here, 1, 2, and ideally you can probably take some of the points from here and put them there. I think 1 point there was not needed, or 2, and you could put them here. I think you can take 1 here and put it there. Then over here you can take maximum HP if you're not going for a Deathless build. Whether you're going for a Deathless build or not, you can take it. But I think spell cooldown rate is a must-have. I think dark magic damage is a must-have. I think spell dark magic damage is a must-have. And now you have 3 points. One of them that's good is this, and I would put points there. If you're going for a Deathless build, you can take magic armor instead of taking much here, although more points here won't be bad. Again, instead of putting a point here, maybe you can put it there. But yeah, I think what would be good for a Deathless build would be more HP, because more HP gets converted into shield and so on, into ward I mean. But over here what we could use is probably regenerating HP, because we are a build with HP stuff. Another thing that would be good is this, and I think I'll put the points there so we can get more spell damage, so we can boost our gun damage with this, and with the Magic Barrage itself, buffing Buffmeister. And this is how I would do the points if I was a Stabbomancer secondary class. I'll start here, put 2 points here, max this one out, put a point here, then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can put points here, 1 point here, 1 point here, 1, 2, 3, 1. This is pretty much what I do on any class. So if you want Deathless, you want 1 point here, so maybe instead of here you can put it there. Or maybe if you put it here you can put 1 less there, or you can just put 1 more point here so you have 17 instead of 18 points for the subclass. You would want movement speed, and you want swift death as well. Spell damage is needed, so I would say max it out. And then whenever you do gun damage, this doesn't seem like it's useful. This doesn't seem like it's gonna be that bad to invest into, so I'll probably get this. And this one is interesting. If you don't go for a build with Sever the Threat, you can go for a build with Executioner's Blade and then have this where was it? This thing to increase your spell damage, and that's gonna increase your gun damage in turn. This one would be nice because there's gonna be a lot of melee damage dealt by those blades. But let's say we're going for this thing as the setup. So yeah, I would pretty much put some points here, and then this one is useful, and then you have 1 more point, which I would probably put into crit damage. I mean, obviously you can do it differently, but this is one way of doing things. Now let's talk about the gear. First of all, in terms of weapons, you need ones of the damage type of the Buffmeister ideally. So if you're going dark, get dark weapons. If you're going cold, get cold weapons. If you're obviously going fire on a Clawbringer, get fire. And I would suggest going frost on everything but when doing a fire Clawbringer or when doing a dark Graveborn, because frost has some nice bases. The Spriggan is a good base, the liquid cooling amazing base, then the Queen's Cry amazing base, and those are good enough. The Deodent not as fun because it spreads a lot, but on big bosses maybe it will be just as good. Those are some decent bases. I think the Fragment Rain is not that great, but it could work interestingly well, but I don't think it's good for this build. In another frosting, you can get Liu K's Breathsweiser, but it's not that great. Honestly, I think those are your top choices. 1, 2, 3, 4. Although this one, that's not in order of how good they are, but I think this and this are equally good. This one kind of. In terms of melee, Goblin's Pickaxe for the passive Goblin Pickaxe, although Echo is good as well. For rings, something with gun or spell damage, whatever you can find with good stats. Mine is all full, but you want magazine size, reload speed, fire rate, stuff like that for the type of items you use, pistols, SMGs, whatever you use. Here, keep in mind, for most of the recorded footage, except for Stabbomancer, I was using this item, which was fire damage, so it was only useful for my Clawbringer setup. Ideally you would have a skip. I think a skip would be a good item. Sacrificial skip, ideally it will boost Spellshot or the subclass and the type of damage you're going for. Frost, fire, if you're going lightning, even lightning, or dark. That's ideally what you want, and ideally it will be chaotic, so you can get those extra stats. Obviously chaotic for everything, because this is what it would look with Frost and Brr-zerker, for example, how much it will give you in chaotic. Now for the spells you need 2 spells. Number 1 should be concentrated Magic Barrage. Keep in mind, Magic Barrage when it's concentrated gives you 1100 spell damage. I think the blue version is 1000. And then the other one needs to be a Buffmeister, ideally with good cooldown, and then you want you want that concentrated because it's broken, because this 1100 spell damage applies to your second spell. And since Buffmeister is a spell, this direct damage that it gives, which is flat damage applied to guns, melee and spells, to any type of source of damage you do, this gets boosted by those 1100%. So this is 10.1% stronger. So if it's 200 damage, it will be 2,200 damage that the Buffmeister gives. If a Buffmeister gives 200, and it can. There are Buffmeisters that actually give 200. So yeah, that should be pretty clear. Get a Buffmeister with as much damage as possible and as better cooldown as possible. In here, matching your element of the guns, and get ideally matching element concentrated Magic Barrage, which only comes in purple and blue. For the armor, I don't have it, but there is an armor that boosts this skill, Glass Cannon. If you can't get something that boosts Glass Cannon, get something that boosts high threat count or something that boosts magic bullets. Things that also are nice, Arsenal is a good thing to boost. Nimble Fingers, not so much. The reload and speed and fire rate are not bad. This one is obviously nice to boost as well. This one is nice to boost. But ideally I would go for something that gives you 1 point to Glass Cannon or 1 point to high threat count at least. Check the vending machines and roll for armors and check the purple ones. There is no legendary armor that gives you +1 to Glass Cannon, but there is legendary armor that gives you +1 to high threat count. Look for Spell Sword or Trickster. Either one should be fine. And I think that's it for the armor. In terms of rolls, just get stuff that boosts gun damage and spell damage and gun critical chance and stuff like that on your guns. Get as much gun crit, hit damage and crit chance and fire rate and reload speed as you can. On the rings again and amulets, get stuff that boosts you. Don't go for action skill cooldown stuff, you don't need it. You need spell bonuses or gun bonuses or reload speed, things like that. Movement speed is also nice, because on this one with Swift Death, the faster we move, the better it is for us, so movement speed is always a top stat. In terms of enchantments, you should also be seeing this on your screen, but I will list them. Pretty much unknown type enchantments for me are ones that I don't know what they roll on. After casting a spell, increase gun damage by 14% and fire rate by 21% for a short duration. Then while health is full, gain 25% gun damage and 25% critical hit damage. Then gun enchantments. On spell cast, increase damage dealt by 15% for 10 seconds. Then on spell cast, increase X element damage, ideally for the element you're using with your guns. And Buffmeister by 30% for 5 seconds. And then another one, after getting a gun kill, gain 20% melee damage and 30% movement speed for 5 seconds. The movement speed one only useful on Stabbomancer, unless you feel like having movement speed without it boosting your damage is reasonable. But I wouldn't advise getting this on other setups other than Stabbomancer. Then melee. On spellcast, increase gun damage by 30% for 10 seconds. On spellcast, increase X element damage by 30% for 5 seconds. Those two. On spellcast, increase gun damage by 30% for 10 seconds. And on spellcast, increase damage dealt, which is all types of damage, by 15% for 10 seconds. And then another one, after casting a spell, your gun and melee attacks have 30% critical hit chance for a short duration. This is the least one I would suggest going for, and the last one I would suggest going for, but it's still there if you can't get the other ones. Ward. On spell cast, increase elemental damage by 20% for 5 seconds, seems like the best one. There is one on Ward Break, gain 40% gun critical damage for 10 seconds, but since we don't have passive ward regeneration anymore, that means we won't be triggering this one, so I would stay away from it. And then there's also gain plus 25% woodwork that you can get on Ward. If you can't get anything useful, it's better than nothing until you get what you need. Now, in terms of the mid ranks, you would ideally want to put points into the stats that matter, such as intelligence for the spell damage, such as maybe constitution for HP, strength for the crit damage. Eventually you could probably put some points into attunement and wisdom, but under Deadeye you would want dex ideally. You would want reload speed, magazine size. Just prioritize what you need the most. Eventually at 400 you would have all those things and all those things and all those things and all those maxed out, but put into things that you think are useful for you first. I prefer putting things into intelligence and then frost and fire damage. So if you're going frost, obviously prioritize frost. If you're going fire, prioritize fire. Each element can be found in one of the trees, so prioritize that one if you're using it, and just put into the stats you want. Eventually this is 100 points, and each of those is 100 points, and after that you can endlessly, which is super boring, put into the final things. Keep in mind you can subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to not miss out notifications for more Wooter and not so Wooter content like this one or others like builds and guides. There's also memberships on my channel, which is a monthly recurring payment that you can cancel at any time, which will grant you access to special perks like emotes or badges made by me, as well as the option to ask me one-on-one for tutorials on Discord about Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects, just the basics though. Thanks again for watching all the way until the end, Struck Weapon. Till next time and goodbye.